I'm really happy to welcome you at this conference for sustainable cities. It's an honor to have you here and connected on the internet as well. This is a hybrid conference, and it focuses on how we turn cities into sustainable entities that can support human welfare. So other than the informatics, I would love to have my slides. Thank you very much. So this is an effort that has gathered a number of prestigious institutions in order to highlight the importance of global efforts to engage in systemic transformations of cities so that nature, the economy, and society can really support the people that live in cities. Okay, and the prestigious institutions that are involved in this is obviously the Athens University of Economics and Business, which is where you are now, where we are now. And then it's the World Academy of Arts and Science, Academia Europaea, the European Academy of Science, and SDSN, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network of the UN. In addition, we have the support of UNFCCC, Global Innovation Hub, which is a huge honor and a very important collaborator. And I will come back to this issue at the end of my very short introductory speech. So, okay, I cannot control my slides, so I will tell you to change them. So our team works on innovative systems transformation for the sustainable interaction between nature, economy, and society. By definition, this is an interdisciplinary challenge. Next slide, please. And who is the team? Well, the team is hosted between the Athens University of Economics and Business, the Athena Research Center, and now the University of Cambridge, where part of my professorship sits. And it's a team that has been working since 1997. It has a long history. First, it was established in Cambridge in the UK, where I spent the first 18 years of my career, and now it is based mostly in Greece. And we are working on these systemic transformations that bring together the ingredients of life on this earth, which is the natural system, the economic system, and the social system, and tries to derive quantifiable pathways from where we are today to where we want to go. And where we want to go is very well defined. It's on a sustainable future. So we work in 120 countries, even more, with projects funded competitively across the world, touching upon climate change and climate adaptation and mitigation strategies, water, food, energy, and biodiversity nexus, sustainable seas and oceans, socioeconomic analysis, behavioral economics, financial economics, innovation acceleration. At the moment, we incubate every year 250 startups, and of course on education, skills, and training. Many institutions involved as collaborators and many impactful case studies across the world. The gray areas is where we don't work. All other areas we have projects. It's a big team, more than 200 researchers, and today this conference is financed by the following projects in which we participate. It's our Sinoi project, and this project is a 15.5 million project for 4 years, focusing on climate-resilient regions through systemic solutions and innovations. So how you use your knowledge on the trade-offs and synergies between systems that are located in cities, and how you bring in innovation, technological, social, financial, fiscal, in order to support a transformation between the systems that will allow you to become sustainable. And sustainable, I said it before, is very well defined. And I'm going to come to that definition. The next project that supports this conference is Impedus, Turning Climate Commitments into Action. This is a 14.8 million project, again for 4 years, again with case studies across Europe, again looking on climate resilience, also integrate climate mitigation and decarbonization in order to find the fastest, the most cost-effective, and the most human-centric and resilient pathway to sustainability. The next project is Carmine, Climate Resilient Development Pathways in Metropolitan Regions of Europe, and it's looking at accelerating metropolitan communities towards, again, climate resilience with co-producing knowledge-based tools, strategies, and plans. Many case studies, again, 8 case studies across Europe, developing digital twins for simulating interventions and actually implementing them, getting them into action. The next project is Pathways to Resilience. It is a 30 million project co-developing pathways towards climate-resilient European regions. And what is interesting about this is that 21 of these millions go to the 150 cities that are involved in the project. So 21 million to structure business cases and bankable projects for transforming cities. It is a challenge to work with 150 cities, and it is also an amazing experience to see how much there is already there, but scattered projects and scattered information and scattered capacity does not allow the change. The final project that supports this conference is Build Skills. It's one of the many projects that we have on upskilling, reskilling, training, and capacity building, and focuses on establishing strong and lasting relationships at both local and transnational levels between vocational training communities and businesses in order to provide the skills that are needed to support the implementation of the transformation plans towards sustainability. These are just 5 projects that are supporting this conference, but the portfolio of research and innovation projects that we lead in IFORIA consists currently of more than 100 projects. And as I said before, the aim is to design transformation pathways to implement sustainability. And I said it 2 times, sustainability is very well defined. Sustainability has been defined explicitly in 2015 in the UN General Assembly 2030, 17 goals, 169 targets, and in our collaboration with the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, the biggest sustainability network across the world, led by Professor Jeff Sachs at Columbia University, with headquarters in New York, France, and Kuala Lumpur is transforming this agenda, this integrated and holistic agenda of sustainability transition into very quantifiable transformation pathways. The day before, we have launched the new 2025 Sustainable Development Report that showcases the current level of performance against the vis-a-vis the SDGs. 17 goals, 169 targets, measured with about 300 KPIs that transpose the status quo into a performance indicator. And these are the results. 17% of UN SDGs are not, only 17% of UN SDGs are on track, and we are lagging seriously behind. It's important to know the colors because I will quickly go through some slides. So green means that you are almost there with regards to implementation of the SDG. You are between 9 to 100% implementation. You see no green on the average global performance. You see no SDG that has been achieved. Yellow means you have achieved implementation of 70 to 90%, orange 50 to 70%, and red 11%. And given that we are interested in cities, it is indicative to see that cities are in the red. So cities are unsustainable at a very serious level. Why are we so interested in cities? Well, nowadays, more than half of the population of the world lives in cities, and by 2050, 70% of the population of the world will be living in cities. So cities are a crucial element of our sustainability transition, and they are also hubs that bring together all the different SDGs that can be mobilized and co-designed in a way that can accelerate sustainability transition and hence the support of human welfare. Sustainability is important because it supports humans. It's not important because it supports the environment. It's important because it supports the environment, the economy, and the society in a way that can support human welfare. And one should be clear that sustainability and the UN Agenda 2030 has only 4 targets that are explicitly relevant to the environment, and then 8 targets that are explicitly relevant to what one would call the social system, and 4 targets that are explicitly relevant to the economic system. And the last one is about collaboration of all goals towards implementing and accelerating the pathway to sustainability. This is how SDG on cities looks like today. So you see a lot of red in the global south, but even in the global north, if you look at the US and Canada, and some cities in Europe, you see that the level of implementation of the SDGs is quite low. And this is a projection to 2030. So by 2030, we don't expect that we will be able, given the current rate of change, to achieve city sustainability. And what does city sustainability basically mean? Well, the KPIs that we use is the percentage of urban population living in slums. This is the yesterday's launch SDSN Sustainable Development Report results. And you can see that the Global South, with regards to this KPI of SDG 11, which is about sustainable cities, is at a very low implementation level. The next KPI is about the annual mean concentration of atmospheric pollution. And again, you can see the Global South in a very difficult situation, not all of it, but most of it. The next KPI is access to improved water sources, piped water sources. And again, Africa is facing major challenges. And then population with convenient access to public transport. And again, we have major challenges remaining. Where you see gray is where we don't have data. And the situation is Europe, because we do implement the SDSN system of measuring, quantifying the performance against the SDGs, not only at the global level, but also at many other scales. And we have a European report. I am leading the European hub of SDSN with 900 institutional members. My co-chair is Professor Angelo Ricaponi at the University of Siena, and we publish this report every year. You can see that cities in Europe are performing better, and they have remaining challenges, but they seem to be making progress. The arrows show progress. And then you can see another downscale. You can see how Greece is performing, and Greece is facing major challenges. You have an orange with regards to SDG implementation. There are different layers of stairs here, and I'm just recognizing that. Okay, so our job is to move from this explicit, quantified recognition of where we stand today, which is measured in the system that I show you, to implementing the current policy framework. So we need to find the most efficient and human-centric ways to move from where we are to where we want to go. And where we want to go is this framework, the global sustainability framework, the SDGs, the Paris Agreement for climate change, but also the transposition of this framework into regional and national policy frameworks. In Europe, we have the European Green Deal, which is a good mirror of the SDGs. In other Europe, we have other policy frameworks. But the good news is that the last 5 years, we have these policy frameworks. 5 years ago, the clear was not this. The picture was not this. We didn't. 5 years ago, we couldn't find the translation of our international, let's say, agreements into the policy and legal framework and regulatory framework of the different countries. So there was no vehicle to actually work with to start implementing. Now we made progress. The last 5 years we made progress. The COVID year, we even made progress towards that. So this is an accelerating change. But even with this accelerating change, even with an explicit policy framework that makes legal the commitment to transform, we are still lagging behind in the pace of implementing the SDGs. And like I said before, only 17% are on track. Within this spirit of developing pathways to get us from where we are to the full implementation of the SDGs and our national and regional policy frameworks, we have launched 2.5 years ago with Jeff Sachs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Global Climate Hub. And the job of this hub, which is hosted in Greece between this university and Athena Information Technology Research Center is to identify the optimal mixture of technologies, social, economic, and fiscal transformations, and policy transformations that will allow you to make the change. And the innovative feature of this hub is that it is very holistic. We travel with Jeff around the world, and the problem for the sustainability transition was first, that people could not define it explicitly, and second, people in governments, but also financial institutions, also businesses, also the civil society, did not have a detailed plan of implementation. So we said that we need to set a hub which will provide for free advice and support for all the countries in the world in order to move towards the holistic implementation of the SDGs with a driving focus on climate resilience and climate neutrality. And I'm gonna end by describing very quickly the innovative nature of this hub. And it is innovative because no one is doing this yet. And it's needed, and I will explain when it's needed. I will go fast. So it functions in three dimensions: the mathematical modeling, the interdisciplinary mathematical modeling that brings together all the systems that need to transform in order to achieve climate neutrality and climate resilience. The climate system, the energy system, the transportation system, the land use system, including agriculture and forestry, the system of oceans and seas, the health system, the innovation system. We solve an integrated mathematical structure that derives very detailed pathways for each of these systems, but while recognizing the trade-offs and the synergies between systems. So we don't have solutions that have been derived in the silo of a system. And this is important. Why? Because if you speak to the Minister of Energy and you give him a transformation pathway, the dynamic narrative of changes that he needs to implement in order to get to the policy targets and goals by 2030 and 2050, he needs to have a change, a dynamic recommendation of change that is consistent to that of the Agricultural Ministry, and to that of the Transport Ministry, and to that of the Education Ministry, and to that of the Development Ministry. So in order to get implementation, you need to be serious about your advice, detailed and serious. And then we embed all this information into socioeconomic general equilibrium modeling that allows you to identify exactly what are the financing streams, but also what are the benefits and costs for the different sectors and between sectors, and also what are the effects on international trade. But we don't only do scientific modeling. We co-design with the stakeholders. SDSN has a hub in each and every country. You can see the map. And in each and every country, we build participatory living labs where all the relevant stakeholders sit around the table and discuss the recommendations and intervene in the recommendations and co-design the recommendations. And at the end of the day, they become co-owners and shareholders of the transformation. And at the same time, we increase their capacity of engaging through knowledge, upskilling and reskilling. And I should say again, I say this every time I speak, in the 30 years of my career, I never seen anything implemented unless the stakeholders are shareholders. The final thing that the hub is doing is putting all of this on an open access, AI-ready digital platform. So we gather all the data, we allow access to all the modeling. This is our modeling suite, and we provide the tools that enable the stakeholders to implement. Visualization dashboards, digital twins, decision support tools, and so on. And we are very happy to say that at the UN Conference on Sustainable Financing in Seville, we are launching the climate neutrality report for Greece, but also, and most importantly, the integrated assessment of the European national commitments for climate neutrality. A very detailed recommendation between today and 2050 on the transformations that need to take place, dynamic transformations in all the sectors of the economy, in all the systems that are involved, in 35 countries, EU 27, the Balkans, and the UK.